call the August 16, 2023 Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Pledge allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning and welcome all. I'd like to remind everyone that this is a public meeting and it is being recorded. We also have a virtual option, and we will monitor that if there is public comment from the folks attending virtually. I do want to remind everyone that we will have time for public comment, and then also you have the opportunity to have public comment on an agenda item. We ask that all public comment be held to 3 minutes, and if there's nothing else, any additions, changes to the agenda? Awards and recognition. Yeah, let's do that. Awards and recognition. Start with Commissioner Timmons.
No, I'm good.
I have a couple. One is I want to congratulate the Umatilla County Fair Board, the fair manager, and all of the thousands of volunteers, the sponsors, on an incredibly successful Umatilla County Fair and Farm City Pro Rodeo this year. Although the final numbers aren't in, we know that it was up substantially. The city of Hermiston kicked in with additional parking by the airport, which made that issue a little bit minimal. But it was just an incredible fair, incredible rodeo. And the weather was just outstanding, probably as nice a weather as, or at least the top three in the 30 years, 35 years that I've been involved in the fair. It was just incredible. So hats off to them for sure.
Yeah, Mother Nature deserves a big award.
Yes, she does. She does. I do have a telecommunicator notice that I would like to read today. The Hearts of 9/11 Award. This award, the Oregon APCO NA Hearts of 9/11 Award, is inspired by an individual, team, or agency who, outside of the normal heroic duties of daily work life, goes above and beyond the console and exemplifies the human spirit and generous, caring, compassionate hearts of our 9/11 community. As demonstrated through actions as selfless humanitarians, devotion to others through personal service, giving of their time, efforts, and talents, this individual, team, or agency proves that 9/11 hearts extend to service beyond the job, touching lives and providing support through contributions to their community. This award was given to one of our own dispatch telecommunicators, and I'd like to read this from Captain Primer. Please join me in congratulating telecommunicator Cherie Hutchinson on receiving the Hearts of 9/11 Award presented by the state, APCO, and the NENA Board. I submitted a number of dispatchers of the Umatilla County Dispatch Team who were involved in significant incidents in 2022, and which covered a number of the various categories that are recognized by the state APCO Awards Board. While I haven't gotten the official letter yet, I did receive an email making me aware that Cherie had won in the category of Hearts 9/11, which is just one of the categories that is presented by the state APCO NENA Board. The extra impressive thing about this recognition is that it is a new award this year. Cherie will be the first in the state of Oregon to receive this from our state APCO NENA group. I am super excited that the committee realized the hard work and caring that Cherie put in this project every year. I included the letter from the commissioners recognized her as an employee of the fourth quarter of 2022. Cherie will be accepting this award at the annual APCO NENA conference and awards banquet in early October, where she will receive this prestigious award in front of her dispatch and administrative peers. So congratulations. It's always great to see one of our own dispatchers recognized at such a high level. I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the meeting of July 5th and July 19th.
I move for approval of the minutes July 5th, 2023 and July 19th, 2023.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Approval, let's see, additions to the agenda. Any additions to the agenda? None. Any public recognition or input at this time that is not on the agenda today? Seeing none, we'll go straight into our business items, and the first one is the charter amendment election. As you guys, or Doug can explain.
Just got dark right now.
What the heck? TV went dark for a second.
Yeah, we're having internet issues apparently. We come and go. What's before the board is there are two action items that are involved here. The Charter Review Committee presented its report at the last meeting, and the board voted to move both recommendations forward to the voters. This is the official action necessary to move it to an election. The proposed date for the election is up for discussion. We would meet the time requirements for the November 7 election, but I think staff is recommending that it actually be May 21st due to the cost involved. The delay is in keeping with the charter. There aren't any requirements in the charter for an election other than it'll be at least 75 days out from today.
So on the election piece, if we voted on it November versus May, will that have any impact whatsoever on the election itself?
The
Did I hear Dan and I on there?
yeah.
But wouldn't that be the same case with the May election? No.
Actually, it'd probably be better if it's during the filing period, if it's changed rather than waiting until an actual election.
Right.
Because if it is changed in November, then anyone that's applied would no longer qualify. But if they then are actually elected in May, then they would no longer qualify if we did an election after November. They would no longer, they couldn't run then. It's almost better to have it during.
It would be better to have it
during the
so it's
filing.
effective in the next election. I'm not sure we have that option. I don't think we have that option, Dan. I think it's effective of. No, we can't do that either.
Well, the charter would override. So say if someone does not meet the qualifications, one of the requirements is that they have to be a resident at
during their term. So if they elect someone that is not a resident,
Then they could-
right? I don't think that's really,
But in reality, if they're elected in November, they don't take office
until January.
until January.
of 25.
Right.
So they could still have time to move over here,
Yes.
Sure.
if that were the case. I mean, that's, granted, admittedly, that's pretty slim to none.
Yeah.
And what else on the ballot this November? Would this be literally the only thing on the ballot?
Mike? Is there an additional public comment period before we put it on the ballot?
That would be today. This is a public hearing.
So the two options we have at this point are, do we vote to put it on the ballot in November, or do we vote to put it on the ballot in May? So what's the wishes?
And before you take any action, you need to have a public hearing.
Oh, that's what I was,
Suspend
I guess I was
readings and
asking,
go.
yeah. At this time, I'll suspend the August 16th Board of Commissioners regular meeting and go into public comment on the charter review recommendations. The discussion at this point is to put this on the November 2023 general election ballot or the May 2024 general or primary election ballot. Any comments for? Oops, did that backwards. Let me, hold on, son. Any comments against this issue? Any comments for? Again, remember, comments are limited to 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And your name and address.
Yeah. Sunny Danforth, 225 Maple Avenue. So I hear there is a cost savings if we have it next year in May. But if it is done this year in November, then anybody who would be elected in May, the qualification has to be before our May primary. The May primary is, even though people could file now, the May primary is when a potential sheriff could be elected.
No.
No,
No?
because if it's not on the ballot until May, it won't affect it until the next cycle.
By statute, the sheriff is elected in November of the presidential election year.
Right.
Okay, so that won't be until 24, November of 24.
November of
Correct.
24.
And they don't have a primary in May of 24?
Only if there's more than 2 candidates.
That's my point. If the election on this issue of raising the age limit and the qualification of residency, as I understand, those are the 2 issues for a sheriff candidate. If that election is this November, then for the May 24 primary, everybody would have to follow what the will of the voters. I hear you, there's a chance of saving money, $60,000. That's a chunk of change. But at the same time, it makes the playing field for everybody by doing it this November, because the primary is in May, even though the sheriff isn't elected until the following November. So if you had it in November now and made it effective right after it's certified, then the May primary, whoever has filed, they have got to qualify by May primary. That's what makes sense to me. Otherwise, you're kicking it down the road until the next sheriff's election. You're opening, I see it as the county is opening the can of worm that well, let's see, we've now put the election for May, and here we have a primary, but we've already got a candidate that's filed that doesn't qualify for what could be on the ballot in May.
Yeah, I see your point, but here's the other, that's not a whole lot different than the last charter review committee that actually stayed in session until after November. The charter committee stayed in as a committee and didn't bring recommendations back until after the November.
But that's not apples and oranges. That's what, it doesn't matter, the charter review committee got finished early.
Okay, it's.
That's just my
thank you.
opinion.
Thank you. So the question is, to have it in November or in May? I'll entertain a motion.
Well, are we still in our public hearing mode?
Yeah, we are.
Oh, that's right, thank you. Anybody else in favor? Come out of public hearing and back to our regularly scheduled August 16th Board of Commissioners meeting. At this time, we need to entertain a motion on no motion at all, or a motion for to put the Charter Review Committee recommendations on the November ballot or the May 24 ballot.
You know, I came into this going one way, and I hear what Sonny said, and I was looking at it from a fiduciary lens, through that lens. But hearing that, I do see the point. Dan, are you still on? What? Can you talk to what Sonny spoke of?
No, I don't think we,
Friday is filing.
we have to have this on the, if
It has
it's
to
going
be
to be in
filed on
November, it
Friday.
has to be
Friday's the
Friday.
deadline.
if by May. But we also have a 60-day deadline too, don't we, from the time that we approved it as, or accepted it?
Well, you already made that, yeah.
We made that timeline.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't seem right to me that somebody files for an office and yet the qualifications are in place at the same time as the primary. That just seems off to me.
And I hear what Dan's saying too. I mean, what are the chances of somebody between 21 and 25 and out of state, or either one filing? But
If they do, we'll have a mess.
yeah,
So isn't it better to be proactive
Well-
and cover your bases?
it goes to November anyway. Right.
plain Russian roulette. But I realize the cost too, I get that.
I'll tell you what, I'll make a motion and then you guys can vote one way or the other. I'll move that we put this charter review committee on the May ballot.
I'll second that for the discussion.
Okay, thank you. Discussion?
I say it honestly.
You don't have a chance.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor of putting the election or the election of the Charter Review Committee recommendations on the May ballot, say aye. Aye.
Aye. And I do that because of staff recommendation.
Are you abstaining?
No,
Oh,
I'm voting no.
no, okay. Motion passes 2-1 to put the ordinance on the May ballot.
And so now you'll need two separate motions to adopt both the ordinances.
So now at this point, I would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance. How's this gonna read?
The 2023-06 is regarding the age.
How about I move adoption of order 2023-06?
Perfect, thank you.
Second?
There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye. And I would move adoption of ordinance number 2023-07.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great discussion, guys. That was well done.
Went back and forth about 4 times in like 2 seconds.
It was great discussion. Thanks, you guys. The next item on the agenda is an application for the development of a development within the greater Umatilla enterprise zone. Doug, do you want to handle that? And then Mr. Hanson, if he has a chance, if he wants to speak also.
Okay. The city of Umatilla and Umatilla County are the co-sponsors of the Greater Umatilla Enterprise Zone, and application has been received for a long-term enterprise zone abatement within the zone for a data center by SATA Data Center Properties. And the city of Umatilla's council considered this last night and did approve the proposal. What's before the board is the consideration of the agreement and whether or not to allow the tax abatement for the data center. The terms of this are very similar to what you have seen in the past for enterprise zone agreements. There are payments in lieu of taxation for both the sponsors as well as several entities that exist within the area, including fire safety, schools, and also included in this is the capacity for the developer to pay, be considered in the calculations for bonds that are passed by the voters for certain items. In lieu of that, the developer will receive 15 years worth of tax abatement.
I've got a couple of questions. So on page 3 of the contract, where it breaks it down, are those where it says the company shall pay to sponsors a one-time payment, is that 50/50?
That will be, there is a separate agreement proposed with the city that anything that's paid to the sponsors will be divided between the two.
And confirmed.
Yeah.
And that answers my second question.
The only difference on that is that the improvement fee will not really be split 50/50. It'll be going towards two different projects. One is the hospital and one is the trail project.
Okay. Item number 10, it's the payment reduction for charitable payment.
Yes.
The company may make payments to or for the benefit of charities or nonprofit entities that benefit the city of Umatilla or residents of the city of Umatilla, and that are reasonably approved by the sponsors. A charitable payment, if the company makes a charitable payment, the company may reduce its payments under this section on a dollar per dollar basis. Is that reduction coming out of the city's portion, or is that all both entities?
Both. It's split to 50-50.
Even though the city's the only one getting the benefit?
Yes. That's what our past agreements have. This language is the same as other agreements, other than the fact that the amount was increased 150, but the first 50,000 does not qualify. So it's still 100,000. But otherwise, this is the same as the other agreements have been.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Any questions? Entertain a motion? Public comment? Thank you. If I could get you to give your name and address.
You bet. My name is Mike Hansen, 12201 Tukwila International Boulevard, Tukwila, Washington. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Sabi Corporation, who's the parent company of Sabi Data Centers. And we've been fortunate to find this community and been working with David and Brandon and their team since June of last year, and have had the pleasure to meet with Rachel and David Paul. And it's been a fantastic experience. And we're in East Wenatchee and in Grant County, Washington, has a lot of similarities to this area in terms of the climate and the people, and we really excel in this kind of environment, and we're here to be community partners. And so we talked last night. One of the things we do in Central Washington is we're very involved with community college, building curriculum and supporting people looking for careers in the technology field. And so we're really pleased with how we've been able to affect things there, and we intend to do the same things here. And so we're very appreciative of this opportunity and look forward to being here.
Well,
I'd answer any questions you might have.
first of all, welcome to the community. I think you're going to find that it's very diverse, very energetic, and I think the development of the workforce is going to be foundational to your success. And it's just great to have you in the community. Looking at some of the projects that you highlighted, I think you guys are going to fit in just perfect.
Oh,
Welcome. Anything we can do to make it a smoother transition, please reach out at any time.
well, I have marveled. I've been in Umatilla, and I stayed in Hermiston last night, and now I'm in Pendleton. The amount of things going on around here, there's a lot of work trucks on the road, and we're going to add a few, so we're looking forward to being here.
I'm not saying we're getting used to them,
But
they're there.
holy smokes. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Mr. Hanson.
Sir, do you have a card?
I do.
Okay.
All right, that brings us to the Community Corrections
Oh,
Plan.
wait.
Well,
Mr. Chair, I move adoption of order BCC 2023-035.
Second.
there's been a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
All right.
Motion passes. Next item is Community Corrections Plan.
Morning, Commissioners. Dale Primer, Director of Community Corrections. This really is a summary of a number of conversations that we've had leading up to this point, starting in the budget committees. What was that, March-ish or so. In March, during the middle of the legislative session, we estimated that the statewide community corrections budget would be around $255 million. Our share of which being 2.42%, actually came in at 253.8 million, so I missed it by $1.2 million. Our share remained the same. But for reference, that's the $32 million reduction statewide from last biennium. That reduction for our county is 1.393 million. So what I presented in the budget committee is also reflected in the biennial plan before you. I think, as you know, we've talked about this over the course of the last 2-3 years, knowing how the budget is built and how it's built on a capitated rate, and we knew how the courts were functioning and how COVID impacted various different systems, we knew that there were some reductions coming. So in my shop, I'm down 5 positions. We've sat on those 5 positions purposely to reserve funds back. So even though that's a pretty substantial reduction for my department, what's represented in this biennial plan is consistency in terms of operations and services. So there's no immediate need for layoffs, there's no immediate need for program reductions, and in fact, everything that we funded last biennium continues to be funded this biennium due to having seen this coming for a while and being able to set monies aside to bridge that gap. So that's what's reflected in this plan. It would get us through this next biennium. If that level of reduction continues into another biennium, then obviously that's a different kind of story. Good news is I'm seeing lots of emails and lots of conversation about short session coming back in and looking at the population forecasts and maybe bringing some additional revenues in the short session, but that remains to be seen. So
We need those emails from legislators for a change.
no, I mean, we always hope, but like I tell my staff, I've never seen hope on the front of a check. So we tend to deal with what we know, and that's what we've done here. We've seen it coming. We've planned around it. I'm fairly comfortable in where we're at. We're a little bit shy on the money side of maintaining all of the programs in the Justice Reinvestment side. We're short about $90,000, but over the course of the biennium, there's always some attrition. There's some moving parts, and people leave, people come, and the delay that it takes to post a position, hire a position, those kinds of things. So I'm fairly comfortable with where we're at, but there's a lot of moving parts, and we can make those adjustments as we go. So this morning I got the email for the intergovernmental agreement that coincides with this that I forwarded to Doug. So upon approval of the plan, the county would submit a letter of approval along with a signed intergovernmental agreement. And for reference, this plan has also been submitted to the Local Public Safety Coordinating Council, and I've received their approval as well. So without any questions.
I know you cut deep, Doug, with the $315,000 a year in the carryover. How much do you have in reserve after that?
I have about 1.7 million in cash reserves that I've built up over. Gosh, I've been director since 2015. So, we did this in 08, 09. Where we got down, we went into those bienniums with a couple million in reserves, and I think we came out of that with about $100,000 in reserves. And this one, it's hard to say. I do have. I'm 5 empty positions. I did have to post one of them. It just takes a certain amount of staff to keep the lights on, regardless of what your caseload size is. In Hermiston, we got a team over there, and you get somebody out on workman's comp, you get somebody that has a child, and then all of a sudden somebody gets married, and pretty soon you get one person in the office and trying to flag the calls and all the stuff that comes along with our work. You can see where that would become problematic. So then you take the resources from the Pendleton side or the north side and you shove it over there, and then you're weak over here. So anyway, so we're going through some things. My administrative assistant and I meet monthly. We go over every time we get those directors' reports, we go down through the list and look at where our percentages are in terms of our expenses. And on paper, it looks pretty tight, but I don't think it'll be as tight as we think it will be.
Thanks, Dan.
And I think I told you this, but at our District 1 meeting for AOC, which we're hosting at the Sheriff's Office on the 29th of September, I've asked that the continuing lack of funding to community corrections statewide be addressed.
Yeah. Well, I think the big message that we have to remember, I don't know how many people are in the building down there now that were in the building in 1995 when this model was created, where
Not many.
where, where the funding formula was built and that agreement where the state would fund the counties to do what used to be a state function, and that we would go through an actual cost study every 6 years to determine the actual cost that is incurred by the counties, and that would then be translated back to the state to be built into the daily rate. And there's a whole bunch of moving parts there that really haven't been done.
Are they doing the analysis?
We're doing the analysis, but
What's the next step?
the law says that we shall do an actual cost study every 6 years. But the law says the legislature may accept it.
Doesn't say they have to.
Correct. And they haven't. So when you look at the purchasing power, and you and I have had this conversation, in 1997, when I got hired in this department, it was 44 employees. We had a work release center that was 30 beds. We had, PSI writer. We had a programs person. We had 8 work release persons. We had 2 work crews. We had 15 POs. Total staff of 44. I have a total staff now of 21, and they say we're fully funded. And our share of the budget, and our share is roughly the same as it was in 1997. So by not accepting those cost studies over the course of the last 25 years, the purchasing power of those dollars continues to be diminished, if that makes sense.
Unfortunately.
So that's where we're at. But at least the light at, if there's any sunshine in this bucket, where we're not immediately reducing services, I think we're in terms of caseload size, the ratio of clients to PO, we're in pretty decent shape. A lot of the programs we're working with, share partnerships with the sheriff for like jail beds and the care program and various things. Those things all appear to be working really well. So at this point, we're not looking to get into any services, more people.
Thanks, Dale.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the biennial plan approved by LIPSIC and authorize chair to sign acceptance to approve letter.
I second. I just want to make a comment. I was reading down through all of the additional information and what you supplied.
Mm-hmm.
People do not have any idea exactly I've said that before.
Yeah.
Exactly what your department does and the safety that you provide the county.
Mm-hmm.
And I
But
think
they'll
it's
know it when he's not funded to
they
provide
will
it.
know it when you're not funded.
Well,
And I
maybe.
think it's a real shame.
Yeah, I've said the same thing about the Measure 110 stuff. There's a lot of things that we keep a lid on that people don't know that we keep a lid on until that lid's no longer on it.
Yeah.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Thanks, Dale.
Thanks, Dale. Next item on the agenda, Tom Fellows with a software package.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Fellows, Public Works Director. What I've got before you today is the purchase of a software package for our shop. As you may have realized over the last 20 years, all of our equipment has become more and more computerized. Each individual manufacturer has created their own proprietary programs, and they've kept them secret and not shared them around. So what has happened is not just the county, but anybody that buys this equipment is in the same boat. They've had to go back to the dealerships and in order to even make minor repairs. They wouldn't even allow you to read the programs. Well, recently through court action, that has changed, and those programs are no longer protected. In fact, they actually have to share those. So what we're seeing in this company is a very good example. Is this company has brought a number of programs in and put them in one suite. So if we purchase this program, we'll have the opportunity to not just read codes on our equipment, but go in and make adjustments, make changes. We'll be able to diagnose problems, and by diagnosing, then we'll be able to repair them in our own shop. Actually, our shop's was pretty excited about it because it's been very frustrating for them to not even be able to diagnose things. We just have to go to the dealerships to do it. This program is put out by Norgan systems. The cost is $6,230.92 up front. That not only includes the software, but that also includes the computer and all of the connectors that we will need for any of our equipment. And that includes the first year of service fee. There will be an annual fee of after this of $2,199 a year. I'm sure that's going to go up or down. They can adjust that in any year that.
Probably not going to go down, however.
Well, you know, I like to be the optimist.
Yeah, we've always noticed that.
Really?
So basically, the Public Works is asking the board to approve authorization to purchase this diagnostic program through Norrigan and allow us to start doing some more of our own work.
Thanks, Tom. One of the things that Tom pointed out, and coming from the manufacturer side, is that when the lawsuit was settled, it didn't put a cap on what manufacturers can charge for that software. So I'm gonna say Tom's probably got 7 different manufacturer pieces of equipment in his shop. Each one of those could cost $30,000 to $60,000 if bought individually by the shop. In this case, all of those are being consolidated, and I agree with John, this price is probably gonna go up just because of updates. And there will be no limit on what these guys have to pay for updates.
The one thing about this, and the program does come with a minimum of 3 updates included in our annual fee every year.
Oh, cool.
So at least 3 times we'll get. I hesitate to use the term free because we're paying for the annual fee service, but
Right.
we have 3 updates per year included in that cost.
Anyway, I think it's a heck of a deal. So I'll make a motion to authorize the purchase of the Norrigan software system.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next item on the agenda is a payable to A&T.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mackenzie Bowie, Assessment and Taxation Department, GIS. So what's before the board is the Esri annual renewal of licenses. This is the payable for the annual renewal of Esri licenses for several departments within the county. Our licenses run November to November. Several licenses are prorated for the coming year, so they are on the November billing cycle. Assessment and Taxation is requesting the authorization to pay $8,104.44 for the Esri renewal licenses.
Is there a break in savings if we pay for more than 1 year at a time?
Not that I know of. From my understanding, we pay the initial, which is a higher upfront cost, and then it's a lower cost to maintain those licenses.
But along those lines, Esri is having a pretty serious discussion of packaging all of their suites into one cost to one location. So all of the Public Works Esri information, other Esri information, plus assessment and taxation, and the more departments we have, it's going to be more and more attractive to us to look at eventually packaging all of the information that we get from Esri.
Mr. Chair, I move approval or authorization to pay $8,104.44 for Esri renewal license.
Been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Great presentation. Next item is an HR payable.
I think the HR director is at training right now. So this is a request for a payable to Safe Corporation. This is for additional premium costs for workers' compensation. This is a result of the audit they do every year on the payroll, and some adjustments were needed. So the additional cost is $16,343.91.
It's one of those, I don't like it, we don't really have a choice,
Yeah.
so.
Can I ask a question? Where did the $16,000 come in at?
I really don't have the detail. I looked through there. It's not really listed on the invoice where. I think part of it has to do with the number of volunteers, because if we have additional volunteers, the costs will go up. And they estimated to begin with how many there are, and the category numbers can change, what category people are put into.
Mr. Chair, I'd approve payable to Safe Corporation the amount of $16,343.91 for workers' comp coverage.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Without it, we have no insurance.
That's right. And our, including our volunteers.
Yeah, right.
The next is the annual payment, or no, the monthly payment.
No, this is the adoption of
This is, there's a new proposed policy from Human Resources for the paid leave Oregon program. This is a result of the adoption of the paid leave Oregon plan, and the county is participating in it, and as a result does need to adopt a policy, and that's what the Human Resources has prepared and presented for your review and consideration.
Entertain a motion?
I move that we adopt County Policy 4.3B in accordance with paid leave Oregon effective immediately.
Second.
Any discussion? Like Mr. Timmons made.
I do have a question. So, you know where Lori's gonna be leaving us after the 1st of January. So how does this, is this an additional time, or how does that work? I'm just using her as an example.
This is an addition to what currently the county provides for paid leave, but it only pays a certain portion, like I'm going to say 67%.
But then the state pool.
That's the state pool pays it. I mean, we don't pay it directly, but the county will allow an employee to utilize their paid leave that they have on the books to make up for 100%, so they do not lose any compensation while they're on leave,
Okay,
if they have that accumulated leave to use.
right. The other thing that I thought was interesting is a person only has to be employed by the county for 90 days.
Yes, that
and
is,
then you can take advantage of this.
yes, that's part of the law.
The law.
Yeah, most of this, these terms of this are nothing that the county really has any say in.
Right. I just think that's interesting. You know, I
Interesting
know
is
it's
a good term.
it is. I'm sure there's been a lot of discussion on that.
That's an
Um,
understatement.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, did you make a motion?
Yes.
And you seconded
You
it.
seconded
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
it.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the CDA payment. $5,569.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of payment.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is Nolin Hills and a decision the board needs to make whether to proceed with an appeal to the Supreme Court on the decision of the FSEC.
Yes, the FSEC made its decision at the hearing to approve the Nolin Hills project certificate and overrode any of the objections filed by the county. The next step, if the county wants to dispute, is to file a petition with the Oregon Supreme Court. That is to be filed within 60 days of the decision is signed. That has not yet occurred, but counsel for the county does need adequate time to prepare and is requesting that the county make a decision at this time whether or not they want to proceed with an appeal to the Oregon Supreme Court or not.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we move forward with the appeal process up to the Supreme Court and authorize our counsel to start preparing.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, discussion?
I realize that the project, they've agreed to the 2-mile setback. I think it's bigger than that project. I think it's, I think this opens the door for other companies to say, well, we're going to disregard the county's ordinances. And I don't want that door to be open. I want to slam it shut, so.
After going to the hearing, believe me, I've done my homework on this, and I realize I'm a latecomer because this has been a discussion for a long time. But after going to the FSEC hearing, hearing the state agency tell the counties, they even said that the Oregon statewide planning goals are broad. And I'm telling everybody this that's already heard it, but I'm gonna say it for the record. They said that these statewide planning goals are broad, and it is the task of the county to make them more streamlined for the county. So we have 36 different counties with 36 different needs. And so each county is tasked with streamlining ordinances to fit their county. They sat right there. That was the task they gave the county, and yet they turned right around and stepped over the local ordinance. Doesn't make any sense.
Because
So,
their minds are made up when they walked in the room.
huh?
Their minds are made up when they walked in the room.
That does not make any sense. They went right against what they told the counties to do. So I'm saying what you're saying. I'm just adding to that.
I agree with what both of you said. One of the things that I think gets left out of this discussion is that FSEC was given additional direction statutorily than just the state land use goals. There's land use goals for housing, there's land use goals for all kinds of different uses. In 1975, the state of Oregon gave the Department of Energy and FSEC, when they created it, a whole streamlined, for using your term, and very narrow interpretation of state land use laws. I've made this comment before. It was driven by the desire at the time of natural gas cogen plants to be cited as energy producing facilities. Very little discussion back in 75 of solar, wind, hydrogen, all of that. But that hasn't changed the land use laws. So as I look at this and I look at it, what's our chances of winning? I think very slim. But I appreciate what both of you guys said. I think I need to take emotion out of it and look at it on a real basis as a commissioner. And so that leaves me basically with 3 options. We could have no vote at all. We've had that precedent, and then just kill it. But I didn't think that was right then, and I don't think it's right now. So I think that the commissioner should get to vote on this. So when I weigh the pros and cons, I started with a yes vote. If I vote yes, what projects are we going to have to eliminate to pay for this? Because we lose projects if we pay for one thing. We have to make those decisions. We make those decisions all the time. But are we looking at Cows Creek Bridge or 22 miles of oil mount roads, investment in homelessness, or the ability to invest in the social or mental crisis, purchase of a snowcat for search and rescue. All of those you have to weigh because this is a cost issue. Or at least I did in my decision making. A no vote. If I vote no, I would like to see us invest time and money in a legislative solutions. That's where the solution's going to end up, no matter what, no matter what happens at the Supreme Court, it will be a legislative solution. And I think that if I was playing with my own money, I would vote yes to do this. But I'm not playing with my own money, I'm playing with the county's money. So I have to look at the odds. And the odds are not with us, the odds are with the House. But there's additional influences as I make these decisions too. John mentioned it briefly, but we have the ability to achieve compliance through economic pressure on all projects. We always will have that ability. We've heard no objections from the people that live next to this project. In fact, what we heard in the early testimony was the people that live next to this project being in favor. I have a hard time challenging private landowners and what they want to do with their private land. That's just a bedrock issue to me. I think if private landowners and private land use should be private.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
If I'm a landowner and I say, you know what, I'm okay with that being 1 mile from my house, can I have an exception from my residence?
There is, yes, but it's a little convoluted, but the answer is yes.
Okay.
And out of the 22 windmills, 16 of them have already made negotiations to do that.
So then the private landowner can make the decision to have the windmill there. Okay.
Yeah, so with all of that as part of my decision, and I've researched this backwards, forwards, inside and outside, trying to find a path to yes, and I just haven't found it. I mean, it doesn't matter what you look at. Just a quick reference to this document that was prepared in 1995 that took a 20-year look at this program, and basically it says it's a wreck. Then it says planning activities have largely failed when it comes both to economic development and to energy development. And things haven't improved. And they're not going to be improved, in my opinion, by us going to the Supreme Court. It's going to be through a legislative effort. So with that said, further discussion.
No, I appreciate what you said, Dan. I really do. But to me, I think it's bigger than that. I think it sets a precedent. I mean, the precedent's already set. If we do nothing, the precedent's set, and we're stuck. Then companies can come and go forward. Because that's one of the arguments is if you go to the Supreme Court and you lose, precedent's been set. Well, I say precedence has already been set if we don't do anything at all. So that's one of the reasons why I want to continue to go forward on this and hopefully get that changed. In conversations with our attorney on this, she says we have a pretty decent shot of overturning this. So I'd like to give her the opportunity to win that fight.
I heard that different, but that's all right.
Doug, didn't you mention that we could go to the Supreme Court, but we can also go legislative?
Yes, that is correct.
So we can,
You can take both
we can
paths.
take both avenues.
So any further discussion? Got a motion? What's that?
Do we hear from the audience?
Any public comment on this?
Take it to the Supreme Court. Amen.
If you're going to make comments, please come to the podium.
Okay. Sunny Danforth.
The race to the podium.
225 Maple Avenue, get in line. Yes, I ask you to take this to the Supreme Court, because as Commissioner Schaefer just said, if nothing is done, the precedent is set, and I do believe that this is a winnable case. Thank you. Ann Jolly, 225 Maple Avenue in Milton Freewater. And I would like you to take it to the Supreme Court. This decision doesn't affect just Umatilla County. It's all of our counties. They've asked us to make, I don't know the proper term, but regulations that can't be less than what the state is, but more. We've complied with that and done that, and now for them to just overrule it, I ask you to go to the Supreme Court because I feel it can be won. We've been there before.
Marlene McClinic from Milton Freewater, 87175 Highway 339 in Milton Freewater. Take it to the court. We've been fighting this and they're just waiting. They're waiting to fill it out here. They're waiting for the hills. They're even after Granil Thompson's property, our prime land. They're not going to give up. And if we don't stand and fight, that's what this is all about. Take it to the courts. Take it to the Supreme Court.
Richard Jolly, Blue Mountain Alliance, 54462 Upper Dry Creek Road, Weston, Oregon. And some of the residents that you think would be impacted, how do you know that all those residences have been notified? Everyone that's within 2 miles of those, have they been notified? And are you aware that, and talk to them yourselves or anybody from the county? We feel that you need to take this to the Supreme Court because of the arguments that you've just stated. And to say that this is possibly a solution through the legislative process, I don't believe that the reference that you've made before is the proper way through the legislative process to have analyzed this. To turn it over and say that all major projects, the larger projects over 110 megawatts, are going to be cited by the state and they can cite them within their ordinances is not the correct way. It's how the county has designed their layout for the county and the planning department. And that is the proper way to do these things. And to throw that all out the window for the entire state over other ordinances even, not just this citing ordinance. If you looked at what the state's arguments were, all ordinances would be overstepped by the state. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Further comments? Got a motion and a second. All those in favor of going to the Supreme Court with this, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. That motion passes 2-1. Let's see. That's it. Any other comments, Commissioner Tillings? Commissioner Schaefer?
I'm good, thank you.
We're adjourned. Thank you everyone for your comments.